Hi guys, so today we are learning about 5.1 ratios and ratio tables. You started this a little bit yesterday by seeing a video from Mrs. Brown, and then today we're going to do our formal notes. So chapter 5 is all about relationships between numbers. Is there a pattern that you see? How do we get from one set of numbers to another? And so that's what we're going to start with is by looking at ratios. One thing we need to know when working with ratios is how to simplify fractions, because these really are two different numbers that have something in common. And that's really what simplifying fractions are. So what I want you to do is pause the video and simplify whatever table number you're at. If you feel like that was too easy, try the challenge at the bottom. All right, so you should have tried these now. And here are the correct answers. How'd you do? Can you find the pattern or relationship between a 3 and an 18? By simplifying. You also could have used calculators for this. So this is where you should be taking notes. This is the definition of a ratio. A ratio is a pair of numbers that compares two different types of units. There are three ways to write ratios. You can write them in a fraction form. You can write them in word form, or you can write them using a colon. These all compare 1 to 2, even though they all are written differently. So again, a ratio compares one number to another number. For example, for every one cookie I eat, I need to work out for 2 hours. That's comparing two different things here. So here we have steps to writing ratios as fractions. Step 1, take the numbers and write them in ratio form. And again, you can either use a fraction, a word form, so the word 2, or a colon. Then you do need to simplify that. So for example, here we have 18 boys and 15 girls in a gym class. So I want to know the ratio of boys to girls. So my numerator is boys and my girls is my denominator. This order here matters. So 18 to 15 or 6 to 5, 6 boys to 5 girls. It also could have been written as 18 to 15 or 18 to 15 with the colon. And of course, you would simplify it for 6 to 5 or 6 to 5. Order matters. If you need more time, you can pause the video to finish those notes. So I want you to try this one. There are 16 dogs and 12 cats. Please write a ratio of dogs to cats in simplest form. Again, if you need to pause the video, you are more than welcome to do that. And please try it in your notebook. All right, the correct answer would be 16 to 12. 16 to 12 or 16 to 12. Any form would work, but you do need to simplify that. You can divide out a 4. They all have 4s in common. So really, we have 4 to 3, 4 to 3, or 4 to 3. So for every 4 dogs at a shelter, there's 3 cats. Which means if there were 16 dogs, there would be 12 cats. All right, so go ahead and you try whatever table number you sit at. Make sure that your fraction is in simplest form, or your ratio, I'm sorry. Also, if you want more of a challenge, you can try the challenge at the bottom. We're going to pause the video while you get a second to try. Press play when you're ready to check your answers. And here are the correct answers. As you can see, I put my ratios in fraction form. You could have used the word form using TO or the colon form. Now we're going to talk about how do we interpret this ratio. So I have 1/2 to 8. Again, I could rewrite this as 1/2 to 8 or 1/2 to 8. The fraction form here can be a little bit confusing because there's a fraction in the ratio. Now, what this means is it says find the value. Find the value means how much is this ratio overall? Well, remember that fractions really mean division. So what I can do is I can say 1/2 divided by 8, which we really know by dividing fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal. So we really get the value of 4. So the value of this ratio means 4 or is 4. So what this really means is the amount of the first number is 4 times the amount of the second. So again, that first value, or to interpret the value, it means that this is for the amount. Okay. All right, let's look at another example here. I know that can be a little bit tricky. We'll do this one together still. So again, 4 to 10 really means 4 to 10 or 4 colon 10. They gave it in word form. So we need to find that value first. So again, we do 4 divided by 10, which is going to give us 0.4 or even 2/5. So what that means is that the relationship between these two numbers is 2/5 or 0.4. To get from 10 to 4, I times by 0.4. So again, 10 is 0.4 times the amount. All right, you go ahead and try this one. First, you need to find the ratio, and then you need to find the value of the ratio. So first, the ratio itself. There's 2 questions here. We're going to pause while you try it. When you're ready to check your answers, press play. And here are the correct answers. So think to yourself, how did you do? Did you get your ratio correctly? Did you find the value of the ratio correctly? And did you interpret it correctly? Again, these will be questions that are on your homework as well. All right, so now we're going to look at these tables, and you might find the pattern throughout the table right away, which is great. Sometimes the numbers are a little bit more tricky, so there's a couple different ways we can do this. Let's look at this first table here. I can see that to get from 2 to 4, I times by 2. And we know that when we're looking for patterns and we're looking for ratio tables, it's going to be the same pattern. So if I multiplied that guy by 2, I had to have multiplied the bottom oranges by 2 as well, because that's how we make equivalent ratios, just like equivalent fractions. So what times 2 is 10? Well, 5. Okay. Now I can move on to the next. How do I get from 5, this new 5, to my third number? Well, I times by 3. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So up here, I'm going to have to times my first number times 3 to get to the third, which is going to give us 6. And then we have to look, how did I get from the first number all the way to the end? Well, I times by 4. So to get all the way to the end on the oranges row, I times by 4 to give us our 20. Another thing you could have seen here is that on the top row, we were counting by 2s, and on the bottom row, we were counting by 5s. In this case, to find those values, it was a lot quicker and easier to see. However, some tables are not as easy. For example, the tables on the right here, feet and seconds. We've got fractions going on, so it can be a little bit trickier. So what we do is we use that ratio value that we found in the previous examples. So I want to look at the pattern of feet to seconds. So I'm going to do feet divided by seconds. So I'm going to do 6 divided by 1/3. We can type that into our calculator. Or we can say 6 divided by 1/3 is the same as 6 times 3/1, which is 18. So what that means, and this is really important here, what that means is to get from feet down to seconds, I divided by 18. So again, feet to seconds, I divided by 18. Well, guess what? I'm going to do that again here. 12 to seconds, I'm going to divide by 18. So I can do that. 12 divided by 18 really simplifies down to 2/3. Since it's in fraction form in our first number here, that's why I kept it in fraction form in the second. I'm going to jump down to the end here to get from feet to seconds. I'm going to divide by 18. That's the pattern that works every time. So now I have 24 divided by 18. This one's going to give me a 1 and a 1/3. And I'll put that into the calculator or into the table. Now, I still have an empty space on the top row. If I divided by 18 to get to the bottom row, I'm going to do the opposite to get to the top row. So now, going the other way, I'm going to times by 18. 1 times 18 gives me a value of 18. So again, by finding that value of the ratios, I can figure out how do I get from the top row to the bottom row every single time. In this case, I saw that to get from the bottom to the top, I divide by 18, and to get from the top to bottom, I divided by 18, and the other way, I times by 18. And all I did there was I took the first value that I knew, and I wrote it in ratio form and found the value of that ratio. Here's the thing. Our example over here on the left only works when the numbers are working in that nice pattern and you have nice numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 5, 10, 15, 20. Those are nice values. However, in our example over here on the right, we've got fractions going on. So really being able to find the value of the ratio can help every single time, because every time I divided by 18 or times by 18. All right, we're going to look at a U-try here. So find the missing values in the ratio table. I'm going to have you pause the video to try it. All right, now we can go ahead and look at the correct answers. All right, so as we can see here, there were a couple different ways to do this. We could have said, oh, I times by 2, so I times by 2. Oh, I times by 3, so I times by 3. Or you could find that ratio value by taking the one ratio you already know, 6/9, and realizing the ratio value is 2/3. So what we did is to get from the top row to the bottom, I divided by 2/3. That worked every time. 12 divided by 2/3 is 18. 24 divided by 2/3 is 18. 30 divided by 2/3 is 45. Okay. Same thing in this example over here. I took the one ratio value that I had, 1 to 1/2, and I simplified that down. 1 to 1/2 is a value of 2, right? Because again, I did 1 divided by 1/2, and that gave my ratio value of 2. And what I found is then to get from the top row to the bottom, I divide by 2. And to get from the bottom to the top, I do the opposite of times by 2. So 3/2 times 2 is 6. 5 divided by 2 is 5/2. 3 times 2 is 6. So using that ratio value can get you from the top row to the bottom. All right, let's look at some story problems here. You mix 1/3 cup of blue paint for every 2/3 cups of yellow paint to make green paint. You use 4 cups of yellow paint. How much blue paint do you use? So we're going to make a ratio table here. So we have yellow paint and blue paint. It says 1/3, 1/3 of yellow, put that in the wrong row. 1/3 cup of blue paint for every 2/3 cups of yellow paint. We know that we're going to actually use 4 cups of yellow. So I'm trying to find how much blue paint then. Well, again, I need to look at that ratio table here and find the value. So 2/3 to yellow. So 2/3 divided by our 1/3 blue paint is really 2/3 times 3/1, which simplifies down to 2. What that means is to get from the top row to the bottom, I divided by 2. So to get from the top row to the bottom, I divide by 2. 4 divided by 2 gives me a total of 2 cups of blue. So if I had 4 cups of yellow, I would need 2 cups of blue, and then I would get my green paint. Okay, looking at this one, we have 1/2 cup of oats for every 1/4 cup of honey to make 12 cups of granola. This one gives us a little bit extra because now we're looking for the total amount. So I have my oats, I have my honey, and I have my granola. I have 1/2 cups of oats, 1/4 cups of honey, and my goal is to get to 12 cups of granola. Now, I didn't put the total in that one here because that's not enough cups, right? 1/2 cup and 1/4 cup is only going to give us 3/4 cups of granola, and I want 12. So what I need to do is I need to keep growing this fraction until I get to 12. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to double my oats and double my honey. So if I double 1/2 cup, I'm really going to have 1 cup. And if I double my honey, I'm going to have 1/2 of a cup. That only gets me to 1/2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to double it one more time. So now I have 2 cups of honey and 2 cups of oats and 1 cup of honey, giving me 3 cups of granola. Now remember, our goal is to get to 12. Do we see a quicker way now to get from 3 to 12? Well, I times by 4. So I got to times this guy by 4 and this guy by 4. So I have 8 cups of honey and 8 cups of oats and 4 cups of honey. I keep mixing up my oats and honey, giving me a total of 12 cups of granola. So again, 8 cups of oats and 4 cups of honey. So as you can see, I kept growing my ratio table until I got to some numbers that actually helped me. And that is it for our notes for today. You'll have homework problems that look like this. This video is located in our Google Classroom calendar. So what you can do is, if you're struggling, you can go back and rewatch some of these examples. All right. Have a great day, guys. Thanks.